Brack.
Okay, your name?
Jana Ridvan.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Jana, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
Hi, how are you doing?
Miriam.
Okay.
Well,
So first we have a speaker on COVID-19. That's Bashar. Then we have a speaker on the international condemnation of the blockade and why they can't stop Israel. That's the description we've got here. Who's going to be speaking on that? So what we're going to do is we're going to just go ahead with this. I'll open this up. I'll try and give the mic to everybody when it's their turn to speak. If we get a little bit sort of mixed up as to who's going to be speaking when, that's all right. We can just, if we have any problems with any individuals and their mics or what's happening, we can just transfer that over to somebody else and we can go back to a person who had any technical difficulties, if that's all right. So today, I've seen that we've just gone live here on Facebook. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be bringing attention to what's going on in the Gaza Strip currently, and we're going to be trying to shine a light on different aspects of the siege. If we can get everyone to pause their mics whilst others are speaking, that might have an effect if everyone can hear me on here.
Yeah, I'm trying.
So at the side of your screen, you're going to have the option to pause your mic, and then when people are able to, are coming up to speak, then we'll have the ability to speak, and I'll also shut off my own mic so you won't have to hear my voice as well. Okay, so to open this up, of course, this is an issue that unfortunately a lot of people aren't speaking on at the moment and a lot of people aren't focusing on. But of course, it does need attention in the Gaza Strip. As many people perhaps viewing this, people that have joined today will know COVID-19 has just it's just broken out into the Gaza Strip. We've had a number of cases. It really exploded into the Gaza Strip. We didn't really expect this. And of course, preceding that, what we had is 19 days straight of bombardments by Israel, which was, it started on the 11th of August. On the 13th of August, then Israel closed the sole humanitarian aid crossing into Gaza. And so the situation there, of course, grew very dire. And this is perhaps what has urged everyone to get on here today on this online demonstration, as we're calling it now. We've because of the COVID-19 restrictions, we have to do it this way. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through each and every single person that we have from all different representative groups supporting the rights of the Palestinian people and touching on different aspects of what's been going on in the Gaza Strip, solidarity, campaigns, activism, the way to approach this issue and get the message out. And hopefully we'll have a very insightful discussion. So first of all, passing this on to our first speaker, if we can get her in here.
Hi, Ajahn.
If that's possible. We're first going to have a speaker on COVID-19, because this is, of course, a huge issue inside of the Gaza Strip at the moment, and to talk to everyone on here about what's going on with COVID-19 at the moment. And I will pass this over to Bashar, who is going to speak about this, if she's there and if she can speak at this moment. If not, we can then move it on, and we can go back to her if that's going to be an issue.
Yes, could you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you now. Okay, perfect.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Bashair Muhammad, 21 years old, Palestinian activist from Gaza Strip and a member of 16th October group. First, let me thank everyone who attended this online protest. And you have to know that Your attendance is a great support for all oppressed people in Palestine, and it's highly appreciated. I'm here to speak about the situation in the Gaza Strip amid the outbreak of COVID-19 and how this crisis affects all aspects of life in the Gaza Strip. As you know, the situation in Gaza Strip is so dangerous even before the outbreak of the coronavirus in the Gaza Strip. And this crisis is not only, or is not the only reason for the miserable life we have in Gaza Strip. Israeli occupation is the only reason and the main responsible for the misery that we have in the Gaza Strip. Israeli occupation imposed a siege against people in the Gaza Strip since more than 14 years. And this is the main misery we have in the Gaza. So people in the Gaza Strip find many difficulties during staying at their homes since the first day curfew was declared or announced in the Gaza Strip. Most important of these problems and these difficulties is the electricity crisis that affects all our people in Gaza Strip. During the beginning of the few days of this crisis, it was available not for just 4 hours a day. And this is mean that people should stay at their homes without electricity. Children staying at their homes without any means of entertainment, and sick and old people are staying at their homes without any means of vision. Could you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Yes.
I can't hear you well.
You can continue if you can hear us now, because from my end at least, and I think a few others, we can hear you. So if you can continue.
Yeah, sure, you can continue. We are here well.
Okay. The last I said is that in the first few days of this crisis, electricity was just available in the Gaza Strip only for 4 hours a day. And this is a real misery that Gazan people face. Gazans are staying at their homes without electricity. Children are staying at home without any means of entertainment, without television, without internet connection, or without anything of entertainment. As you know, that electricity is a main factor of everything that based on our life. Sick and old people did not have any mean of ventilation, and this is especially for them. Another problem that the Gazan people face in the Gaza Strip, that the health sector is destroyed or not enough prepared to confront COVID-19, and it lacks many of things. Most importantly, the blood banks, the necessary materials for testing COVID-19. After some days of electricity, we are provided of a schedule of 8 hours a day for electricity. And Israeli media celebrated that they provide us of 8 hours a day of electricity. They celebrated that provide us of 8 hours a day of electricity, and this is a misery, because they stole our and they enjoy every that we are prevented from our, and then they celebrate that they give us just a schedule of 8 hours a day. Is our right over 8 hours, a schedule of 8 hours a day in 8 hours of electricity in a day? So what we need is to live peacefully, to live freely, to live without bombing, without violation, without committing crimes against our people. not to have only 8 hours a day of electricity. I'm 21 years old, and I did not visit Jerusalem throughout my life, and I did not enter any inch of the Palestinian land outside Gaza Strip. So our demand is to live freely, to live peacefully in our land that was stolen by the Israeli occupation, while Israeli settlers and Israeli forces enjoy the sources of our land and enjoy everything that we are prevented from. Then they celebrated, they give us an 8 hours of electricity in a day. 8 hours of a day means that if I sleep this night with electricity, the next night I will sleep without. Okay, I'll stop here and thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, and thank you for offering your perspective. I think it's probably the best person we could have got first to speak is, of course, somebody that's living under these conditions. And I think everyone on here, it's great for everyone to get an insight into what it's like living under the current conditions in the Gaza Strip. So thank you so much for that. Next up, what we have is, I don't have the named speaker here, but we have a segment on the international condemnation of the blockade and why Israel hasn't been currently stopped from, of course, violating international law, imposing the siege, which is completely illegal, and all the other different aspects. So next up, we are going to enter into discussion with someone. I haven't actually been told exactly who's going to come in here. So if anyone is knowledgeable on who they are, who is speaking about this issue, please speak up. If not, what we'll do is we'll move on to the next thing on the agenda, and then we'll come back to this if we've missed out on anyone in here. Doesn't seem like we're getting a response. So we do have on schedule a message from a Palestinian child, which I assume is a video to be played if we've got someone to play this video. So if anyone is on here who has that available for us at this time, we can move on to that.
Yeah, Julie Whippleman right now, she is
Okay, if we can go back, apparently we're going to have Julie speaking next. If we can go on to her, if we can hear her now. Apologies for everyone watching about the delay here. So if we've got Julie online here, if she can hear us.
Julie's on mute. Julie is on mute at the moment.
Okay, so if they don't know how to unmute, at the side of your screen, you should have the option to mute. So if you tap your screen at the side, it should say unmute, mute, and you should be able to click that and be able to speak.
Can mute all, sir.
Okay. It seems like we're having a little bit of difficulty getting hold of her. So what we will do, I think the best way to push this forward in terms of, I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties here with a few different aspects of this, is we can go back to...
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Okay. Save the day.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry,
so
it was
if you...
the little unmute.
Okay,
Okay,
perfect.
Assalamu alaikum. It's 4 a.m. here, so it's a wee bit early in the morning. But I thought it was really important to fill in, to talk with you all, because this is a really important initiative. And I sympathize with the first speaker, because we, as do probably everybody, because we all are suffering the COVID lockdown in one form or another, but we at least do have electricity. So our lives are somewhat easier. One thing that I think Gaza is very lucky to have is a very excellent Ministry of Interior who is delivering water to the people confined in their homes and food, so that people who can't get out to get water are still receiving it. All of that was left to us to do ourselves, but we do have water in our taps, which again is something that we should be very grateful for, and remember Gaza every time we have a glass of water. Now, what I was going to talk about is the status of the Palestinian case at the ICC. We have been working on this for 6 years now, since way before even Palestine acceded to the ICC, to the Rome Statute. And I'm really happy that in December 2019, that the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court announced that she was going to open a full investigation, as she considered she had sufficient evidence. That is because of the work that many people in Gaza have done, not only the various teams that I've worked with, but also many other teams of people in the West Bank, Jerusalem and Gaza, who have been fighting so hard for justice for a very long time. The status of the case was that the prosecutor referred it back to the chamber for a decision on terrorism.
If everyone can hear me in here, it seems like one of the admins has muted everybody. So apologies to Julie for that. I think there's just been a few different problems, of course, with different people's sounds coming through. So if Julie, you can unmute yourself. I'll mute myself again and you can continue. Okay.
Okay. So the prosecutor referred it to the chamber because she knew that this would be an area of contention, and that this would be a potential area that Israel would want to challenge the court on. So this was referred to the chamber, and other people, any interested parties, were given the opportunity to make submissions. Now, all of those submissions are published on the ICC website, so people can go and read those submissions. And both Israel made submissions, even though they're not even a member of the International Criminal Court, as did other people and governments, as well as lawyers groups and victims and victim representatives. So the situation was that at the end of April, the prosecutor gave her opinion, taking into account all of the submissions that she had received, and she still concluded that the court had jurisdiction. So it was then referred back to the chamber for a decision. Now, that was on the 30th of April, and they were given 120 days to come to a decision. That 120 days is up. So we are waiting very, very anxiously for this decision from the chamber. This is the next step on the road to justice for Palestine. One of the things that many people say is it any use? What Palestine never gets justice. Nobody ever gives Palestine their rights. Well, I think of all of the jurisdictions, the International Criminal Court does have far more potential than perhaps many avenues that have been done before. Quite clearly, we can see that Israel does not give justice to Palestinians through its own courts, through its civil courts or military courts, where most Palestinians, including children, are tried. So the lack of faith in those institutions is very well founded. They have never delivered justice for Palestinians. Similarly, the United Nations, for different reasons, the United Nations does not have any powers to impose any penalties or to implement any of the decisions it might have. Whereas the International Criminal Court does have the power to impose sentences, life sentences or 20 years jail, whatever, but they can not only impose them, but they can also enforce their decisions and put people in jail, or if they don't have them in their territory, then any country that's a member of the International Criminal Court must hand over those persons to the International Criminal Court. So we've got 123 countries that belong to the ICC, which means that these war criminals cannot travel. They will be confined or they will go to jail. So Netanyahu, Gantz, all of those guys are trembling in their boots. Apparently they've come up with a list of over 300 people potentially to be jailed by the ICC or to be tried at the ICC. They're concerned, they're worried, and with good reason, because they are guilty, probably. We know, all we need now is for the court to prove it in court. And this is the other point that has made our work so detailed and so difficult over the last 6 years, is that it doesn't matter if we all know who the guilty person is, we have to prove it beyond reasonable doubt in court. And that is the crux. So a lot of work has been done to make sure that the evidence we collect is admissible and is very, very strong and will meet the threshold of beyond reasonable doubt. So we will see very soon, with the decision of the chamber, whether the full investigation will be opened, and then it may take, who knows, 5 years, 10 years, 25 years. We don't know how long the process will be, but at least it has begun, and we have very good reason to think we've had, if we look at it as the birth of a child, the labour, it has been a difficult pregnancy and the labour is prolonged. But we hope that the work that we have done during the pregnancy will result in a healthy, strong, fighting child. And that's exactly what we believe we have done. So thank you all for supporting Gaza and supporting Palestine in coming to this rally, and for all of your support. And it'll be very necessary for you to keep your eye on the International Criminal Court and on the shenanigans to which Israel and the United States will get up to derail this case. We must be prepared for a very big, long fight. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And thank you for giving us some more insight into the ongoing pending case with the ICC. And hopefully it does bear fruits, this effort, and that we'll see something come of this, which will go towards creating peace and, of course, justice for the Palestinian people and what they've gone through. So thank you so much for that. Next up on the agenda, we do have a message from a Palestinian child. We have another video coming up after that, the current health situation, which is covering the current health situation in Gaza. So if we can get that organized and up, then this will be featured next. If for whatever reason, technically we aren't able to have these videos, that's fine. If I can have some communication here. If that's not possible, So we're just currently waiting on that.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Rawan Zidan. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Okay, I'll talk about the children in Gaza. Children in Gaza living have experienced unusual high rates of psychological distress because the violence response to the Gaza protest and daily attacks they witness. The children are always victims of all wars in Gaza. The attacks often target public places that have turned into refugees for civilians, like schools and hospitals. It almost became a habit that each Gazan child expects to wake up one day on bad news that his school is destroyed due to one of Israel's shells. In addition to the lost lives, 10 of the 1,000 of children are injured and some are left disabled for good because the daily attacks. Also, all children suffer from the lack of resources to help them learn, and they are not given the right in education perfectly. For example, my sister and a lot of children in Gaza, they suffer from electricity cut, which hinders them from studying most of the times. This also because we have the electricity just a few hours in a day. They don't enjoy life like other children around the world. They cannot sleep at night with a lot of stress, poverty, and bad circumstances when it comes to education, health, and another basic rights. Not to mention the frequent overwhelming attacks. Can imagine how simple and basic their dreams are. They just want to feel meaning of the life, only the meaning that is written in dictionary, which is the opposite of the death. And now my sister gonna sing a song on my home. My name is
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Razan Zidan. In the siege of Gaza. In the siege of Gaza. Oh my home, oh my home. Glory and beauty, grace and majesty are in your halls, life and relief, felicity and belief are in your love, Shall I see you, safe, blessed, victorious and honored, safe, blessed, victorious and honored. Shall I see you, Aminan, reaching the stars, oh my home, oh my home, oh my home, oh my home. The youth won't give up till you get free, or did I, we don't fear death and won't be to fall like slaves, we don't want everlasting humiliation or a miserable life, everlasting humiliation or a miserable life. We don't want but regain our great glory, oh my home, oh my. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for that. And for those that don't know, that was an English translation of Mautini.
yes.
So thank you so much for that. And I really appreciate, and everyone does in here, I'm sure, for both of you coming on here and spreading this message to everybody. Next up, what we're going to do is that we're going to move it on to speaking to different organizations on here. So first up, we have Huda Mori from Palestine Action. For those of you that don't know Palestine Action, I'm sure maybe you've seen some of their videos online lately. They've been doing a lot of work and I believe a lot of involvement in targeting, bringing attention to Elbit systems and them selling weapons, of course, and trying to create awareness about the weapons, how they are used, and the crimes that are committed with these weapons. So if Huda is there, we will move on to her next.
Hi, should I speak now? Hi everyone, my name is Huda Mori. Thank you for inviting me on here. I'm really honored to be amongst other activists and people from Gaza as well. As Rowan explained, the situation in Gaza is getting worse and worse. There has been an ongoing blockade for over a decade. We see Palestinians in Gaza constantly stripped of their basic human rights, whilst the Israeli arms trade and the Israeli military are continuing to carry out their brutal regime with violent force against Palestinians in Gaza. And these weapons are being made and produced from not just in Israel, but across the world. This includes many Western countries, including the UK. We've seen Palestinians in Gaza, when they marched to the fence during the Great Return March, be shot at and sniped down by Israel's military, often deliberately disabled by using butterfly bullets and such high velocity bullets that the only way to treat the leg is for it to be amputated. And we've seen over 35,000 Palestinian protesters be injured in Gaza because of this brutality by Israel. And our countries, companies, institutions across the world are complicit. And many of us, myself included, a Palestinian in the UK, are very privileged to be in our position. And we've seen that again, petitions and doing the normal things is not working. What Israel is doing is so brutal, and we need something to match that on a grassroots level, not just in the UK, but across the world. Elbit systems market their weapons as battle-tested on Palestinian civilians in Gaza. They do this, they have a strategic advantage on the global arms trade, and they are literally using Gaza as a testing site for their weapons. This is unacceptable. They produce internationally banned weapons. They are complicit in war crimes. We saw in 2014, they killed 500 children in 50 days. This is a population where most of the people are children. And the components are being made here in the UK and in other countries across the world. There are 10 Elbit system sites. This is Israel's largest arms company in the UK, including offices in central London and factories across the place. And Palestine Action has just formed, and it's a network of groups and activists from across the country who are coming together to mobilize, to take direct action and say enough is enough. We will step it up. We will continue to escalate, and we will make sure that we shut down all Elbit sites in the UK. We have stormed several of their offices. Activists have used tactics like throwing red paint, spray painting, continuing to protest. We had a public demo with some arrests as well, violent arrests, as we're seeing the British state trying to protect the war criminals. But what we are doing is highlighting the oppression from the Israeli state, highlighting the presence of these companies in the UK. We know that the people in the UK stand on the side of the Palestinians. We have to make them aware, and people have to mobilize and take it a step further to shut down these sites so we can create ripple effects across the world and really match what's happening on a grassroots level to show solidarity with the Palestinian people. Enough is enough. We have to take action. Join Palestine Action, take action in your own countries. Let's continue to work together, and let's continue to show solidarity with the Palestinian people.
All right, thank you so much for that, and offering us some insight as well into Elbit systems specifically. And for anybody that wants to follow up and join your group on here that's watching, I would advise them to do so if they want to participate in grassroots activism against Israeli war crimes, and of course those who are collaborating with them, selling them the weapons to commit the crimes that they are currently committing. Next up, we have Jana from Friends of Palestine. So if we can have her speak, everything's all right for her to speak now. We'll just give a minute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Hello.
can hear you fine. All right, thank you so much for being here.
Hello, everyone. I have to apologize. I'm sick, so I will be very brief. I think it won't be a problem since there's so many speakers. First, thank the speaker before, Huda, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is what's mostly needed. We really need more action, and what the groups in UK are doing is absolutely excellent. I wish we had bigger group here and were able to do more things. And that's what I was thinking before going to this rally. What like brainstorming on actually another action. Sorry, my son Ali, go away right now. Okay, thank you. Okay, sorry, I'm having tea from my sickness. So I would like to just suggest what we could do to use this amazing opportunity that we have people representing groups in different countries. And I was inspired by this writing of letters by the Amnesty International. So I think we could maximize effect of something like this if in each country, every group with all these people, members, if we can make postcards, or we ask, for example, Visualize Palestine to make us some postcards with short information, what we are missing on media about Gaza blockade, about the siege, about the situation there. Well, we on your media, I'm sure it's the same. It's always just about the balloons, about the rockets. There's virtually no information about the blockade, what the people are actually protesting. And so if all these people can make these postcards with, for example, also a picture, some picture from Gaza, and send, and then if we can coordinate and at the same time send these postcards to local, in each country, local foreign minister. In the parliament, there is usually always a foreign committee in the parliament, in the Senate as well. And one would be also great to send to Mr. Borrell, of representative for the foreign affairs of the European Union. I'm sure he knows what's going on in Gaza, so I think to him it would be great to point out this double standard on, what we see now, sanctions being discussed against Lukashenko in Belarus, in China, and there should be, of course, but for China, for Russia, where they're treating the protesters also in a horrible way. But there's so many dead, killed protesters in Gaza, and not even a discussion about sanctions. And one postcard would be great to send to Gaza as an expression of solidarity. And if we could coordinate somehow this together and make a wave of these transparent postcards with information, and also before we do this, contact journalists, so there's a awareness of these postcards being sent. I hope we can make some waves on the media and bring some attention, which is very much needed, to turn people's attention to what's happening in Gaza. Thank you. That was my input. I think I can't do more right now.
No, thank you so much, and especially lots of thanks, of course, for still attending whilst sick. And I think these are great ideas. I think when we work together, all different groups, especially from around the world, now that we're on social media, everyone is just on social media. The majority of our activism now, or our journalism for others, and our different works is online. I think when we do work together and we do coordinate, content which is shared by one group can get much further. And we can definitely work together in order to create more awareness and try and counter the narratives put out by really the Israeli Foreign Office and what they're reporting. We've got up next, I want to move on to Nevadans for Palestinian Human Rights. We've got Michael speaking. If Michael's in here, we'll hear a few words from him.
Yes, thank you, Robert. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good, thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers of this much needed event, especially the 16th October group. I'm honored to be in the same space with the freedom fighters in Gaza and all of the wonderful activists from around the world. My name is Michael Araj, and I am with the Nevadans for Palestinian Human Rights based in Las Vegas, Nevada in the United States. When WAFA asked us to be a part of this event, we instantly accepted because feeling connected to the people in Gaza is something that is top of mind every day. We cannot feel what you all feel and experience daily, but your spirit and will is what makes activists wake up and not give up. Your idea of existing to resist in the face of a brutal siege and murderous genocidal regime is what fuels all of us from around the world. Sometimes it seems very hard and futile to continue the fight, but we must always push forward. Even here in the United States, the forces of Zionism affect the daily lives of Americans, whether it be through politics or the education system, or the bias in the media where there has not been one report of the recent bombings of Gaza in the mainstream media, and even our taxpayer money. Politics in the United States is more divided than ever, and it seems like there is not one issue that Democrats and Republicans can agree on, even wearing masks or science, but there is one issue that they stand together with, and that is their unequivocal support for Israel. The United States has committed $38 billion of US taxpayers' money over the next 10 years to fund the Israeli military. Why does Israel need this money when they are one of the richest countries in the world? They don't need one penny of aid. The answer is simple. The United States and Israel share the same values of dehumanizing the Palestinian people. They share the same values of imperialism and settler colonialism. They share the values of racism and white supremacy. It is up to activists across this country to continue educating their neighbors, friends, and family about the relationship the US government has with Israel and that their taxes is funding the genocide in Palestine. We as citizens must demand that our politicians end their relationships with Israel and to stop being influenced by AIPAC and the Zionist lobby, to stand for justice, liberation, and the right for Palestinian self-determination. It's a shame that we cannot just rely on the humanity of people or the morality and decency of people all over the world to end the atrocities that are taking place in Gaza and the West Bank and all of occupied Palestine. So what can we do? We must inform people of BDS to fully engage in boycott, divestment, and sanctions. The world needs to bring Israel to its knees to the point that they cannot stand the pressure from the international community anymore, much like the world pressured South Africa into changing their apartheid system. Through academic, political, cultural, and economic boycott, even Israel's most ardent supporters like the US will have no choice but to give in. Boycott Sabra hummus and Israeli dates, ban Israel from the Olympics, ban them from international sporting events, pressure singers and artists not to perform in Israel, pressure our universities not to invite any Zionist speakers to campus. And by the way, let's not be content with just ending aid I spoke of earlier. It's time to start imposing the S in BDS. It's time to impose sanctions on Israel. They have to be held accountable for their war crimes once and for all. It's also time to hold the politicians accountable. The days of being PEP, progressive except for Palestine, are long gone because I believe where you stand on this issue reflects your values. Let's also hold each other accountable. Educate yourself and then educate others on this issue. Arm yourself with knowledge and don't be complacent. Don't be silent anymore. To all of you in Gaza specifically, you are not alone. We stand with you. We wish you strength and safety and the power to continue resisting every single day. We see you, we hear you, and we love you. I thank each and every one of you for being here at this rally, to let the world know that we stand with our Palestinian brothers and sisters and that we will fight for them until justice is had and Palestine is free from the river to the sea. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your strong words there. Next up, we have from Arizona, Palestine Solidarity Alliance, and we have representative here.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Hi, y'all. I'm John, representing Arizona Palestine Solidarity Alliance, based in Phoenix, Arizona, in the United States. Just want to first off say thank you to the organizers who organized this rally. Thank you to everyone speaking, everyone who's here. It's truly an honor to be in the same virtual room as all these activists all over the world. So Arizona Palestine Solidarity Alliance, or APSA, which is the shortened version, is a multiracial group and an anti-militarization coalition working to build a regional movement opposing the ongoing U.S.-Israel partnership, which props up the brutal occupation of the Palestinian people and their lands. We are also invested in researching, educating, and organizing direct actions to oppose increasing militarization resources being installed on the U.S. borderlands and within local and federal law enforcement, as in DHS, police, ICE, some of which have direct ties with the Israeli government, private border tech, and security corporations based in Israel. So going off what Michael had just said previously, that yes, the U.S. has signed $38 billion in aid to Israel over 10 years, from 2016 to 2026. That was not signed by Trump, that was signed by Obama, proving that Democrats and Republicans are truly the same when it comes to this issue. So to put that into a smaller perspective, that's $3.8 billion per year in U.S. taxpayer dollars, which is $25.25 per individual taxpayer per year. And Arizona, as a state, gives Israel $56 million per year. While the Trump administration gives Israel millions, he has demonstrated his callous disregard for Palestinians by cutting all but 1% of previous funding for the Palestinian people to fight the coronavirus epidemic. We condemn our government's acts of racism and inhumane treatment of the Palestinian people, whether it be here in Arizona or in Palestine. We are against colonialism, whether it be Manifest Destiny or Zionism. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right, thank you so much, and thank you for being here today. We have next Ellen from Ship to Gaza, if she's here and ready to speak.
Yes, hello. Can you all hear me?
How are you? Yes, I can.
I'm good, thank you. So yes, I also would like to thank you for inviting us and for organizing this very important event. So yeah, I'm from Ship to Gaza, Sweden. I'm based in Gothenburg in Sweden, and we are part of the International Freedom Flotilla Coalition. We are an international network of around 10 plus campaigns all over the world who is sailing to break the illegal blockade of Gaza. We have now been sailing for over 10 years, and we sent 35 boats, which was stopped, and peace activists imprisoned, medical equipment has been stolen, and the boats have been kept in Israel. So we think that it's really important to lift this important question by breaking the silence from the governments all over the world about the situation and development in Gaza and all of Palestine, especially in Sweden, with our long history of solidarity work and support of especially countries like Palestine, amongst others. We feel that it's even more important for us to continue and actually change this negative trend that has been developing over the past years with right-wing politics. Because we are a country, we're a very wealthy country. We are one of the richest countries in the world. People here never have to be afraid of living in insecurity or poverty or of violence, of speaking out for what you believe in, and therefore we find it important to hold our governments accountable, for our politicians to be supporting this issue, and to stand up against the powers in the world and be in the forefront of this movement. This year, 2020, was the 10th anniversary of the attack on Mavi Marmara flotilla in 2010, which took 10 or 9 activists' lives in the fight for the Palestinian people. So we were planning to arrive in Gaza on the anniversary on the 31st of May, which we naturally couldn't do this year, which we're very sad for. And we have bought a boat and we will sail. We're planning to sail as soon as the restrictions are lifted, and and safety will allow us to sail again. And this time we want to highlight the situation, especially for the children and youth of Gaza who are suffering, and we wish to bring them their future as any other child in the world. They're entitled to the same futures and hopes and safety and security. Lastly, I want to send a message from Ship to Gaza here in Sweden that we are working consistently to break the illegal blockade, and together with the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, we promise the people of Gaza that we will never give up, and we will sail until the blockade is lifted, and we will never leave you alone. So with that, I want to thank you again, and yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for coming here to discuss, especially with the ships that have been sent to Gaza, and for your work and attempting to travel to Gaza and having to endure being detained by the Israelis yourself. I know that it happened in the past. So next we're going to move on to Benjamin Ladera with Solidarity Rising, if he's here and if he's ready to speak. So
yes, I am. Hello, Robert.
Hello, how are you? I hope you're doing
good.
great.
Hope you're doing good. Hello, everybody. It's great to see all of your faces and some very old friends. Hi, Jana. It's been a long time. Thank you so much for organizing this to the organizers. It's really heartwarming to see so many people showing up. My name is Benjamin. I'm from Sweden, and I'm a human rights activist with the fairly new organization called Solidarity Rising. I just came back now a week ago from a long project. We biked in Sweden to raise some funds for the Palestine Children's Relief Fund's work in Gaza with amputee children. So we biked 2,000 kilometers for a period of little more than 40 days and managed to raise about $20,000 for their work. But more importantly than humanitarian work, although it's very, very much needed, is to, of course, put an end to the blockade. And it's very inspiring to see all these organizations doing all of this incredible work. It's a very tough time, of course, and 2020 is not the best year for activism. But of course, we can never stop and we can never give up until all of Palestine is free. One of our ideas in Solidarity Rising is to focus on intersectional solidarity and to try and connect movements together. So we've been very involved in Western Sahara, which is Africa's last colony, and to try and build solidarity between Palestinians and Sahrawis, since there are many similarities between the cases. And between all cases of injustice where there is oppression, I think there is potential to build alliances. And since our numbers, we need to bolster our ranks and have a lot more people on board in every country. And I think reaching out to other movements is a way to do that. But of course, that requires something from us also. It requires genuine engagement in other movements. That's why one of our next projects in Solidarity Rising will be a big tour for Western Sahara to try and build solidarity across 30 countries, which we will bike through once Corona allows it. I don't have much to say other than that Palestine and Gaza and the people are always, always in my heart and on our minds, and always thinking about what would be a good project to do, to organize. How can we reach out to more people? What can we do? As soon as people have good ideas, then we just have to pull our collective strength together and make them happen. And I think we see a lot of new potential now when everyone is getting acquainted to Zoom and we can connect to each other. I'm thinking to actually leave my email address and phone number. I know that, of course, there might be a Zionist here that might misuse it, but I think the potential for good is worth the risk. So if anybody wants to connect and do projects together or need support, send petitions, whatever, so you can connect. I will leave it in the chat, and hopefully we can all work together in the future on big projects and do everything we can for the Palestinian people and all of these people. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much for that. And it seems to be a message that everyone's calling for, and I think is something that we do have to focus on is coming together, various different groups and activists, journalists, whoever in whatever profession, and actually going ahead and coordinating and organizing, because I think a lot of people, especially in human rights activist movements and on the left in general, there's a lot of disorganization. I think a lot of different groups, and unfortunately, you know, we don't maximize what we could be doing if we work together. Next up, we have a speaker from GW Law Students for Justice in Palestine. So if we have them there, then we can start the discussion. We don't have a representative in here for GW Law Students for Justice in Palestine. If not, what we can do is we can move to the next speaker, and then we can come back so we don't miss anybody out. So if we move on, we have a representative, Jacob from Samidoun. If he's here.
Hi, I'm not Jacob, but my name is Charlotte Cates. I'm the international coordinator of Samidoun Palestinian Prisoner Solidarity Network. And on behalf of Samidoun, we want to once again, you know, express our thanks to the 16 October group and to all of the organizers for inviting us and to be part of this event and for creating the space to build and emphasize international solidarity with the Palestinian people and with Palestinians in Gaza, even in this difficult time for people in Gaza and for people around the world. And so at this moment, when siege is being intensified by the threats to health, by threats to life, by climate change, and by COVID-19, it's perhaps more critical than ever that we build our international solidarity to stand with the people of Palestine and to stand with the Palestinian resistance. The siege on Gaza reflects perhaps the clearest example of the siege facing the entire Palestinian people throughout Palestine, in the refugee camps and in exile. And it's important to note that over 70% of Palestinians in Gaza are themselves refugees who have been denied their right to return to Palestine for over 72 years. So this siege is not different than the kinds of, the aspects of siege, of imprisonment, of racism, of political and economic attacks directed against against the Palestinian people throughout Palestine, in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Jerusalem, in occupied Palestine 48, as well as in the camps in Lebanon and Syria and Jordan and elsewhere and everywhere where Palestinians are living in exile and diaspora, fighting back against systems of oppression that are designed to attempt to crush Palestinian resistance and Palestinian liberation. One of those forms of siege includes imprisonment and the criminalization of Palestinian existence and resistance inside and outside Palestine. Samidoun Palestinian Prisoner Solidarity Network is organized to advocate internationally and build grassroots solidarity with the Palestinian prisoners movement and to fight for the liberation of Palestinian prisoners and the cause which those very prisoners struggle, that is the liberation of Palestine. Today, there are nearly 4,700 Palestinian prisoners, including Palestinians from Gaza. And of course, we see this comes amid the attempt to turn Gaza itself into an open-air prison for Palestinians. One particular case is one that I want to note here, which is that of Mohamed al Halabi, because it's an example that is all about the attempt to intensify the siege internationally. Mohamed al Halabi is a charity worker for World Vision who has been kidnapped by the Israeli occupation regime and has been facing nearly 3 years of an unending and unjust trial, that the basic allegations in which have been refuted in fact, but this was not just an attempt to criminalize Mohamed al Halabi or kidnap one more Palestinian of the thousands upon hundreds of thousands that have faced imprisonment and repression over the years, but an attempt to forcefully and violently rip away even those kind of very basic bits of international aid that exist in Gaza. And that was the purpose of this case. And that's one reason why it's still ongoing today. And so, on this occasion, it's important to express our solidarity with Mohamed al Halabi and with all the Palestinian political prisoners who are struggling for freedom. Today, Palestinians in Gaza stand as an international symbol of resistance at the same time that they face a very real and very severe human and political crisis that has been forcefully imposed upon them in an attempt to isolate the Palestinian people in Gaza and to isolate the Palestinian resistance. And this is the reason why international solidarity is so critical today, to break these chains, to break this isolation and instead confront colonialism, occupation, apartheid, and dispossession. And so what we need instead is the opposite, the international embrace of the Palestinian people, the international legitimacy of the Palestinian resistance, and instead the international isolation and boycott of Israel at all levels through direct action, protest, and mobilization, to recognize that the Palestinian people are confronting not just Israel alone and not just the Zionist movement, but imperialism and complicit Arab reactionary regimes that bolster and effectuate the siege on Gaza, funded and supported and armed by the United States and European colonial and imperialist powers. We remember the words of Ghassan Kanafani, the Palestinian writer, revolutionary, and thinker today. The Palestinian cause is not one for Palestinians alone. It is the cause of every revolutionary. It is the cause of the oppressed and exploited masses in our era. Samidoun is committed to organizing with Palestinians in Gaza and with people and organizations around the world to break the siege on Gaza, to break the chains of imprisonment, to stand with the Palestinian people and the Palestinian resistance through protest, direct action, and international mobilization. We invite all of you to join with us, and we look forward to working together with all of your initiatives and all of your organizations to build our international movement at this critical time. End the siege on Gaza, free all Palestinian prisoners, and the liberation of Palestine from the river to the sea. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And next up, talking about international solidarity, we have a spokesperson ready from the ISM, the International Solidarity Movement. So if we could open up the mics for them, that would be great.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. It's great to be here. Thank you for the 16th of October group and everybody there. I see familiar faces. I was in ISM for 2 years in Gaza, and obviously in the rest of Palestine, the ethos of ISM is it's Palestinian-led, but people, internationals go there, work with Palestinians in olive groves, school runs when they're getting shot at, demonstrations, villages being attacked, houses demolished, and the consistent harassment. And it's really about bolstering, supporting what was on the ground grassroots resistance in Palestine. And this is still ongoing now, despite COVID. A lot of ISM people are reporting and using social media to pass on messages and work done on the ground by Palestinians there that they work with. And this is where the main point of Connect is. My time in Gaza, I was there for 2 years. It is the spirit, really, the spirit of people living, existing, no matter what is thrown at them. And it shows to me the extent at which we all, internationals all around the world, we have a lot more in the tank. we can do a lot more. We have our privilege, we have our space, we can take it forward here in our own countries, or we can ideally, obviously help support in Palestine as well. But here is where a lot of the complicity is. When I left, I was in Gaza, and I was there during the bombing of Gaza in 2012, and I'm in Shifa Hospital with the kids coming in one by one, and I'm seeing kids dying in the intensive care unit, and then I'm rushing out to meet the families, and then we're going out obviously with the protesters as well, and we're marching with them, and I'm seeing people shot and killed next to us for standing and saying, this is my land, for protesting with a flag. And that is what I'm talking about. That is where we have so much extra privilege, space and time and safety to do so much more. And I think really when one of ISM's mantras is that apartheid is not going to be defeated by words alone. Ethnic cleansing, segregation, oppression, domination are going to be dismantled the same way they were erected, through people's action. And that's really where we take that spirit. And those who have been in ISM, a lot are around me now in Manchester, in the UK, and in other parts of the world. And we are wanting more urgency. We're wanting a little bit more sacrifice. When people are marching towards the bullets, we expect now we have to stand up. We have had many years of the important work of petitioning and sending off to politicians and other things like that. There are also ways where we stand in the way, just like for South African apartheid. We need more direct action. We have shown over the last few years just how effective it can be. And we've had days where we've closed for a few days arms manufacturers, as Huda said, Elbit Systems. And one connect I want to talk about is when we're taking action, I feel like I've just left Shifa Hospital during the bombing. I want that level of urgency as if there's a crisis right now, because it is a crisis every day. And we need that urgency. And when I was occupying the roof during the bombing of Gaza, we were on the roof of an Elbit factory for 3 days. And while I was on that roof, one of my students, because I was a teacher in a university in Gaza, she was a really nice friend as well. She was killed with her 2 little babies and her mother and father-in-law. It was one bomb from a drone. This was a drone factory. Elbit makes drones engines. That's the connect that we're talking about. So it's right around us here in our countries. We are privileged, but when you make that sacrifice just a little bit more, nothing like what Palestinians are making, protesting in Gaza, facing the bullets, nothing like what you have to do when you have to go and get food during the many bombings, like the 19 nights of bombing in Gaza. When they have to do that, this is small. What we face in our countries, we have it easy. We have to step up now. We have to go out. There's bombings in Gaza. There's the siege of Gaza. There's a wretched blockade right now of 2 million people, mostly children. We have to do more. We have to get out and we have to stand in the way. And we're calling on everybody to take action, whether it's the arms trade with Elbit, which is a really obvious target, the biggest arms manufacturer, but other things like Puma, who sponsored the Israeli Football Association, the many banks investing in Israeli arms trade. It's not just about saying it. It's about moving on and getting out of our comfort zone and taking action, like we've just left Al Shifa Hospital in Gaza during the bombing. And the most important thing for me as well is to take the spirit of the Palestinians who are facing this day in, day out, because I left inspired from Gaza. I had a lot of horrible experiences from the horrible attacks in Gaza, but I left inspired knowing that we can do so much more and we can all do it. And it's the only way it's going to end. And there's lots of things we can do, and we know that. We have the space, the freedom to do it. So please take that spirit of the activism that we have in Palestine and take it back to our countries. And please, more action, stand in the way. Really, we can do it. And that's I send my best wishes and all my love to Gaza and to tell them that we won't stop taking action until all of those links are beaten. And just like for South African apartheid, we end this horrific apartheid regime that has been going on for far too long. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think it is important to highlight, as you did, the urgency of this all. I think people really don't get inspired to do anything about this until there is a massive bombardment and a few thousand people are killed, unfortunately. And even within the 19 days which Israel continuously bombed the Gaza Strip, there was little to no focus on what was happening from the international press, the United Nations, and we didn't see basically anything except for people online, unfortunately. So there has to be urgency, as you said. And with that, we'll move on to the next speaker we have lined up here from Palestine Network South Asia, Dr. Mohamed Sirajuddin. Sorry for the mispronunciation there. So next, if he's in here, then we'll have him say a few words as well.
Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And first of all, I would like to thank all our other organizations who have joined up with us, including with us, to organize this vibrant expression of discontent against decade-old Zionist occupation in Palestine. Unlike most of the speakers who have spoken here about the day-to-day experience of oppression in Palestine, or for that matter, Gaza, I'm going to focus a bit core points which would not deviate myself into larger conceptual jargons. So this meeting is being organized at a time when serious turnings are happening around the world. Obviously, number one is the lockdown forced out by COVID-19. And obviously, when you talk about Middle East and the nearby continent, South Asia, we had two parallel cases of concerns in the form of geopolitics and larger implications for the people who are dwelling there. One is obviously the dream of Netanyahu to annex West Bank and remaining areas forcefully, violating international laws. And at the same time, we had also seen that three nuclear powers in South Asia were in a dangerous interface on the question of Kashmir, and more or less in militarized zones, as people have experienced and elaborated throughout the years. Under militarization, obviously, there are common parameters which we can learn and dwell into explain the emerging unique patterns of state violence. So when
Soy Alani.
Es Aladi.
Ya no hablo muy bien. Soy argentino y hablen argentino.
hello, organizers.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Shall I
hear
continue?
you. Just go on, Dr. Muhammad. I
Okay,
think
okay. So, okay, thank you so much. And so there was a rumor that Israel would annex West Bank, and there was furor. There was outcry and outburst around the world, especially in United States. So when Israel was about to annex West Bank, there was BLM movement, Black Lives activist movement in United States, where Black people have been subjected to intense extrajudicial violence. When this extrajudicial violence came to a limelight in American US public sphere, people started talking about the crude forms of extrajudicial violence perpetrated in secured zones. So people have started discussing militarization and its impact on liberal democracy, how even in liberal democracy, self-claimed liberal democracy, people use extrajudicial violence as a form of intimidating and curtling down the dissent of the people. So when you talk about George Floyd movement, obviously we have many parallels and we have many similitudes to take from Palestine. And obviously both movements are very important for this era as far as intersectionality and movements and resistance are very important in contemporary era. So secondly, the question of normalization. A month passed, then they started talking about Israel's normalization with Arab nations, including United States. Obviously, there has been there has been a move towards normalized ties with Israel earlier. Egypt and Jordan did that earlier, and throughout the 90s and in early 20s, there was secret meetings, secret alliances, unholy alliances between Arab monarchies and Israeli Zionist forces. And right now, when United Arab Emirates enter into a deal with Israel, it matters a lot because we are an organization based in Palestine Network South Asia. Palestine Network South Asia is a organization, is a organized form of people, of activists, of academicians, of like-minded people who want justice in Palestine, and the same justice has to be delivered to all people who are suffering from state repressions all around the world in the face of growing inequality and the onslaughts of global capitalism. So what I'm trying to say is that with the coming of Israel deal with United States, there has come to a phase where Israel can bring the umbrella agenda of strategic maneuvering all over the region, including forcing diplomatic ties with erstwhile enemies. And obviously the quest for resources is very important as far as an ambitious as apartheid state like Israel is concerned. So all these contexts are very important when you talk about South Asia and its relationship with Palestinian people. Obviously, we were talking about Palestinians with our friends from Bangladesh and Pakistan, and they were saying that one of my friends from Pakistan said there are almost 500 Palestinians living in Pakistan. In fact, in Delhi, where I had my university education, I have heard the story of a girl from Gaza, a woman from Gaza getting married to a Muslim student of Jamia Millia Islamia, the Muslim university, where the right-wing BJP government is trying to cut through the voice of dissent in the recent days. So with this normalization, there have been criticism from various quarters. The main criticism was that rather than bringing peace as a result of the age-old tradition of Arab community of giving tolerance, bringing peace, these values, the values of tolerance, the values of coexistence, which is part and parcel of Arab community, Arab culture, Islamic culture, has been misused, has been used as a mask to legitimize the inhuman, worst human crimes committed in human history since the last seven decades. So people are not going to accept this. We have sincere hope how the United Arab Emirates is going to deal with the socio-political consequences of this unholy deal with this Zionist state. We all know that in United Arab Emirates, there are lakhs of Indian community. There are lakhs of Pakistani community, Bangladeshi community. Obviously, when you talk in terms of economic angle, economic parameters, people there are obviously are not in a democracy, but there is a system of governance, obviously coexisting with modernity. So when you come to the aspirations or the political understanding of the migrant laborers from Pakistan or or India or Bangladesh, or for that matter, Kerala, one of the Indian state where from large number of migrants are living and living their life in Dubai or any of other Emirates of United States of UAE. What would be the consequences? What would be the interface of their? What would be their social, political, and emotional interface with a state which is collaborating with a Zionist movement? This is one of the implications. Secondly, obviously, I have to bring about the larger question of solidarity struggle and the patterns of oppression. Through this deal, UAE, United Nations, and America, USA, has sought to bring a parallel structure of extrajudicial violence. In the name of peace, they might make a broader alliance against Iran or surging China or surging Turkey, what they call in their characterization. But after all, that alliance would result what had earlier resulted in the lands of Arabs. And people are not confident. People are still discussing. And Palestine Network South Asia, obviously, we have no first-hand experience of extrajudicial violence or militarization in Gaza or Palestine. I would like to bring a small story of myself. When I was a PhD student in a premier institute of India, which is situated in New Delhi, its name is Jawaharlal Nehru University. In short form, it is known as JNU. My PhD thesis was on extrajudicial violence. I had an opportunity to visit Palestine. Unfortunately, my flight was through Moscow to Tel Aviv. The experience, the personal trauma which a person like me, who have tried to understand things, was immense. That Israel, in itself, in dispossession itself, Israel is practicing apartheid. So unfortunately, I had this opportunity to go around Jerusalem. I visited Al-Aqsa Mosque. I had an opportunity to visit the refugee camps in Ramallah side, West Bank, and I have many friends in Palestine. So with this kind of developments happening for the last many years, a few of our friends who are very thoughtful of the churning which is happening right now in South Asia. In South Asia, you have the best friend of Zionism. United States of America is far, but in South Asia, you have the best friend of Zionism. He is no one other than Narendra Modi. What is Narendra Modi doing? Narendra Modi is clearly following the pattern of secular colonialism, of dispossessing indigenous people of Kashmir. On the one hand, United States says that we are the people who are the pigeons of peace, but at the same time, they are going in alliance with Zionists. At the same time, they have good connections with Narendra Modi. And this is about militarization concept. So India, over the time, changed its exposition to Israel as a ally of Palestine to a good friend of Israel. So now we all are disappointed the scholars who are interacting with each other, the
Excuse me,
activists
Mr.
who are interacting with each other. So we
Doctor,
thought that
Doctor.
this kind of intervention would highlight the contemporary relevance of bringing out Palestine to international community. So I am not going to increase my analysis. I have a couple of points to put here.
Dr. Mohamed, just before you do, if I can just interject, we have to quickly move things on. So if you can make just some final remarks, just because we're strict on time, if you can just sort of make some final remarks on behalf of your group. And then,
so finally, I would love to say that these kinds of collaborative initiatives has to be organized in future. These type of collaborative initiatives out of the mainstream political arena will definitely help to change the political discourse in favor of the people who are oppressed and caught in conflict zones and militarized zones. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to put our position. And we are committed to the cause of justice for Palestinian people living inside Palestine and being forced out of Palestine and now living in different parts of the world. We are committed for your cause. Inshallah, definitely we will stand with you. At the same time, this fight is a collective struggle of intersectionality. We will definitely show our commitment to movements like Black Lives Movements, and we will definitely use the language of peace and reconciliation, even for the issues in South Asia like Kashmir. We always talk for peace and reconciliation. Thank you so much, and I wish everyone who participated in this virtual rally for Gaza. I pray that Gaza people get relief as soon as possible. I hope that international community be sensitive to the chaos undergoing in Gaza and other militarized zones. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.
So thank you for this. It does look like we got some trolls, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we got some trolls to have joined in here, but we'll move it on to the next speaker. Hopefully we can get all of those who are coming on here and trying to mess it up out of here. Thank you so much for your contribution. Next up, we have Majid Abu Salama from Palestine Speaks. So if he's here, we'll ask him to come in and offer a few words.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces here also. Glad to see all of you. Thanks to the 16th of October movements and to everybody who's participating every day and all the time in solidarity and in support for the resistance of the Palestinians in all the territories and the 48, the 67, and all our refugees who scatters all over the places because of ethnic cleansing and Israeli apartheid. However, beyond those things, and which is not important for these people who are comrades in the struggle for liberation and the struggle for freedom and dignity and equality, that Palestinians are for years and they are fighting to liberate themselves and also have this intersectional resistance and struggle which they had with West Sahara and with Vietnam and with the training Black Panthers and others. So I do think Palestinians were very much in the front line of fighting of themselves and the liberations of everybody. However, this Nakba, which has never ended, it's always the roots of the problem. I'm not, as I said, I'm a Palestinian from Gaza. I don't know if Robert said I organized for years in the ISM and lots of other popular resistance movements in Gaza. And I'm now organizing in Germany. I was taking Israel to courts in a court case here in Germany with 2 other Jewish activists, where we try to also stop the expanding of Israeli apartheid outside of Israel, which is already happening by all this BDS motion that is trying to be implemented to silence and censor BDS and Palestine activists in Europe. So the idea here, which for sure we won the case, it was a great victory for Palestinians, especially in Germany, who are traumatized and brutally silenced, especially in Germany, to that as if we should pay the sins for Germans to in all faces, you know, to pay for their guilt, I would say, so, or their supremacy or other things. But however, I'll go back to my points where as I said, I'm from Palestine Speaks, and Palestine Speaks is a Palestine-led organization, the same as the BDS movements. We tried, here is the biggest Palestinian community in Europe. We have more than 200,000 Palestinians. We emphasize the fact that the importance of a Palestine-led movement and a Palestine-led voice, you know, and also the importance of in our solidarity movement and resistance movements and solidarity movement to have Palestinians presence and to encourage and work with Palestinians in the ground and wherever you are, since Palestinians are scattered as refugees in most of those places. Empowering Palestinians is part of our struggles to continue this co-resistance of works, as I would say it's important as you guys and those people of conscience and comrades, that of everybody and the self-determinations of all the peoples, and to come together. But it's very important also to make sure that that Palestinians also in the forefront with you. I know it's very difficult since Palestinians are very scattered and having a lot to do with all the fronts of Israeli attacks in all places around Europe. But it's very important point to mention the importance of having Palestinians' voices and empowering Palestinian voices who are speaking, and also empowering Palestinian voices who are present. So you not have all the group of white people coming together. You know, it's important to have to empower that Palestinian voice in that places. That's why I'm really encouraged and I'm proud initiating this, because it's initiated but also by Palestinian in that phase. However, back to Gaza, I wouldn't show solidarity. It's my people and my family, and it's always in my heart. I think it's I grew up with those people, and I would always work to liberate them and to liberate every Palestinians within between the river and the sea and beyond. But it's important to not to go beyond the humanitarian crisis and collective punishments and crimes against humanity that Israel is also practicing in daily life and every day in every detail of the Palestinians in Gaza. And also going through that, because I very much want to stress the fact that very important to use the humanitarian discourse, but it's very important to not forget the roots of our movements, which is very political, and that the roots comes from the roots of Zionism, and the roots of Nakba. That's why I would always say Nakba is 1948, 1947 is the most important aspects to speak about, which also rooted in the right of returns for all refugees to come, because I would say Palestinians, let's say in Gaza, you know, that 70%, or those who live in, the refugees that live in Gaza, their houses are only 10 to 20 kilometers away from Gaza. So it's maybe from Gaza. So the importance of establishing this discourse where we speak and narrate Gazans as political being, not as a humanitarian being, in our solidarity works, because it's of the importance of imposing them not as victims, as also people who resist and who have not to say like all those people are human beings. Sure, it's like, why do you explain that those people are also human beings? You know, it's very important to impose like another structure on an image about Gaza that tells of those freedom fighters who have, I don't think anybody of us, like I live in Germany at the moment, and I am very sure nobody could live and sustain themselves as a normal human being if they lived the details of oppressions and repression that the Palestinian in Gaza is living in daily aspects of electricity and water and signs of testing weapons materials on all aspects. I think lots of us know more about this because I know that most faces that I see here, there are people who knows Palestine well and knows Gaza and knows Israeli apartheid well. Therefore, very important to emphasize the image that Palestinians reimagine the image, I would say, and reclaim the image that Palestinians want to see themselves as freedom fighters. And I always say it in an example. Some things that I always, people will just mention me as as David of Salama, Palestinian from Gaza, as if this is the only things that I have in my life, you know. It's like, I'm the Gazans, you know, oh, poor him. It's important to go out of this narratives, you know, and I'm very much emphasize that for our co-resistance work and the aspects of personally decolonize our image of Gazans, you know, and also decolonize our movement image of Gazans and Palestinians as those people who are agents for their struggles and those who are there and their daily life. You know, you do Palestine, maybe some of you in their free times are fighting, you know, in a very emergency everyday life and every day to fight the constructions of Israeli colonial control of their life, you know, whether from the sky and the sea or the lands, and also mentioning the facts that Gaza, Gazans attacks wasn't there from like 2008, 2012, and 2014. It was continuous. I've never remember. I always have grew up in my refugee camp and always have witnessed like this invasions of months to my refugee camps where the Israeli tanks and bulldozers will, and that happens in many locations, 2014, 2034, 5, 3, 2. Those are things that we shouldn't remember. We should really emphasize the aspect that this never-ending crimes against humanity that Israel is doing is important. That is all over the place. But for taking that to the political aspects and the political rights that Palestine, self-determination, dignity, equality, and so on, and also very important, I would say so, that, you know, as much as you focus on this, we focus on the solidarity to work in your own, Gaza need you to work from your own place, like in Sweden, in Germany, and in the US, in your locality with your own politicians, with your own, with Alba, like with the weapons companies and so in many places to make sure that those are hold accountables. Now we can take Israel to courts in every places. We tried it here, was one of those who tried to take them here, and also involved in other cases with Stevie Livni and Olmerts in different places in Europe and Amsterdam and also in Brussels, where we stopped them and scared them and traumatized them to come into those spaces. So those, if we can decolonize decolonize the space we are from and try to forbid and also scare and embed fear in the Israeli Zionism and apartheid representative, wherever they come to our places, this is where we are. So taking Palestine from our local international place would be a great favor for our co-resistance to take it to another place, the same way that Palestine Action is doing in their work, with doing direct action in their locality, in London, in Manchester, in Edinburgh, and other places, fighting the Elbite weapon systems and so on. We have many companies that the BDS work there. You have so many companies that you guys can investigate, but weapons companies is a great place that we are trying to do it, not in favor to give it a favor for Palestinians, you know, for lots of intersectional work that we could do, because those weapons are used in Africa and Iraq and Afghanistan and Kashmir and West Sahara. We really need to work BDS movements everywhere, intensifying actions everywhere, and intensifying the facts that our work very much can be in the local and the national level through our country. I would say in the last things that hope is there. I do think one of the always thinks that anybody firms and others that anybody comes to Gaza, first sentence we'll hear, man, smile, you are in Gaza, you know? And that is, it takes a lot of courage for a guy, a Palestinian, to say that, but that is what Palestinian in Gaza tells you all the time, smile, you're in Gaza. And I would like to take this hope drive of the Palestinian Gaza, which never end and will never end. I tell you, I know those people, so I lived with them, and Abi and others being there, lived with them and know too well that their struggle will never end, despite this everyday nakbatizing of our life. So it's very important to take this hope and use it as a tool for us to do more direct actions, you know, and to do more work in the ground, new ground, where we expand our solidarity work and our resistance work in our places to make sure that Palestinian voice and the Palestinian resistance and the Palestinian rights are heard within your own spaces. And when it is heard in your places, I tell you, the drums will be heard in Gaza, you know, because people in Gaza hear and look outside will appreciate every work of us down in our locality. Thank you very much, and lots of love from Germany. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And we're just going to move on next to the next representative we have here for Darna, Rania, if she's on here.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Wow, that was amazing. I don't know how I'm gonna top that right now. I don't know what I'm gonna say actually. It's gonna be really hard to top that. Thank you. I want to extend again my thanks to everybody who's here and the organizers, and it's a much needed rally and event, and this is something like I can't believe that we're still doing that. We should have not discussed the siege anymore. This is something. I remember my first time talked about the siege, like that was 10 years ago, and everybody was outraged that it's been 4 years that Gaza it's been under siege, that like this is unbelievable, this is despicable, should end. And right now here we're still talking about that. So it's really hard to talk about it. First, I'm humbled to be with everybody. I'm representing a really young organization. We're just a couple of months old, but I've been talking and advocating and rallying for Gaza and my Palestinian family for, I don't know, forever. Palestinian, my family in Khalil, Ramallah, Jerusalem, and Gaza too. I have cousins over there. It's personal. My great-grandfather, he was displaced and lived in Gaza and was buried in Gaza. So it is a personal cause. It is a personal struggle. I'm based right now in Seattle, Washington. I'm an architect. My audience is a little bit different than everybody here. I speak with environmental group and with the construction industry and with architects and with a really different sector that people, they will think that it's not like, they might not have to do with social justice and equity, but I believe that we are the core of that. Architects and designers, we design and build walls and prisons, and we separate cities, and we have a big role to play in decolonizing our communities. I do remember the first time, as I said, when I was speaking about the siege. I remember that day really well, that I got in all the information and I have the facts ready, and I start talking about the lack of electricity and water, and the sewage between the homes, the demolition of homes, the war there, it was factual. People, they were listening, they were like just not, I felt like they were not connected, they were not like part of the conversation. And that day I went home and I picked up the phone. I talked to my friend in Gaza, and she just started telling me stories she started telling me about her neighbor and about her family. And then I picked up the phone and talked to my friend who lives here in Seattle, who he did not see his family for 10 years. And so I just start talking to everybody that I know from Gaza. And I went on the next meeting and then the next talk, and I changed the whole thing. It became a storytelling advocacy. I did not talk about the numbers, because the numbers, every we put them in, they increase. Same with images, we have the number, but the stories, each one of them will impact the audience or the people that you talk to. So my advocacy and my talk and my presentations, even within the environmental industry, it became a storytelling. And every time I left that meeting, I will have people reaching out and say, how can we help, and can you connect us? And like from that day, I felt that the personal story, this is the way that you can humanize our struggle, and it has to be like really brought into the local communities. It's not, I don't believe anymore actually with reaching out to politicians and to the governments and to our representatives, because they have the facts, they know what's going on. They don't need to learn more about the struggle in Gaza or in Palestine or anywhere else, but they need to be pressured from their constituents. They need people to come and tell them that we're here, this is not under our name, we don't want this to happen. And from my experience and what I've been like seeing on the ground, that every small talk, you go to your community meetings, you go to your church, you go to any small, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we hear.
Yes,
okay.
we can hear you fine.
Oh, sorry, I got a message that I was muted. So any small talk will make a difference. Any conversation that we have, any local effort will make a difference. That's what I believe in. I believe that every one of us here on this call, or everybody who's advocating for Gaza, for Palestine, has to believe that their efforts, it's needed, their efforts, it's making a difference. Even if you don't see yourself changing, we are changing the narrative one person at a time. Again, I'm humbled to be part of that. I'm committed to our family in Gaza. لأهلنا في غزة، أنا معاكم، أنا بحبكم. إحنا ولا إشي من غيركم. إحنا actually خجلانين منكم، لأنه أنتوا اللي بتعملوا like برفع الراس. Thank you all for having me and letting me share my story with you. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much. Next, and the final speaker we have up before we're going to bring Wafa in is Masood from IHRC. If he's in here, he's going to speak to us and offer a few words as well. Is Masood in here?
I can hear you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Can you hear me?
Salam. Yes, I can hear you. Floor is yours.
Right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I really sort of benefited from everything that was being said. It's really speaking out what is in my heart and what I fear and what I hope for Gaza and for Palestine. And I want to take this few minutes to sort of say that we need to do a lot more. I mean, the speakers after the speakers saying that we are in a sort of comfort, a very relative comfort, and we need to stand up and struggle a lot more. And also, I think what is important for those of us age like myself who was involved in the struggle against apartheid in South Africa, and the lesson we learned from that was that we need to have solidarity right across. It's going to take a lot of different activities and different struggles, both physical in the locality, those who are resisting, and indeed those who are supporting to break up this apartheid system. And we need to have a solidarity, even if we are not able to carry out some of those activities because of where we are. Each one of us are expertise in different areas. But I think networking is extremely important. We in Britain have now put some sort of networking after the month of Ramadan, Quds Day, when 110 different organizations across the globe, everything from South America to India and Malaysia, Indonesia, you just name it, joined up. We feel that we need to all join up together, and whatever area that we could help and support each other in this noble cause, we need to do it. Or at least we need to be aware of what's going on globally in the struggle. And I think I would like to sort of suggest that let us have a sort of a email list that we could easily reach everyone with the different things. Not everybody has to plug into a particular project, but at least we should know about it. We should have a solidarity for it. And also there are some projects and some planning that the Zionists and the Israeli supporters are working on that we need to make our colleagues aware of. The normalization that is taking place is not just with UAE or these sort of dictator governments in the Middle East, but the normalization is taking place in all the mosques, in all the churches, in all the trade unions. There is a huge effort. And, you know, you could look at the sort of the material from their think tanks and their so-called intellectual. They argue that if you normalize in these arenas, then people are not going to oppose you as much as if you're not normalizing. And so we need to actually stop this level of normalization, which is taking place. And that needs cooperation between all of us. We need to be aware of it. We also, the new definition, which is almost established within the West, but is going to be taken internationally all around the world through the UN and so forth. We need to actually stand up for that fight. We sort of, to some extent, lost that fight in Europe, but we should not allow that fight to be lost outside Europe. And indeed, we need to help our communities in different parts of the world to have an understanding what this definition, how damaging it is, and how to fight it to be established.
All right, thank you so much. And what we're going to do now is, I think that we do have to actually establish something to follow this up. I think if we can all add in, we've got a comment section here. And if afterwards we can organize to put together something where there will be a joint email list or some sort of follow-up to this so everyone can actually coordinate, at least send each other information, that would be great. And I want to thank everybody so much for being in here, and every single one of the speakers yet again for adding so many different dimensions to this discussion. And what we'll do now is we'll go to Wafat, who really is behind all of this, of course, with others, but she's been doing amazing work, and she'd like to say a few words.
Yeah, Salam, how are you? Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for introducing this webinar. I would like to thank you in particular. For the rest of the organizations here, actually on behalf of Palestinian people, I would like to deeply thank you all for participating in this online rally. Indeed, whenever my people see people from outside support them, actually this encourages them to keep resisting the occupation, to keep going on in this life. Regarding, I'm not gonna talk so much because I don't want, you know, I know many of you are busy and we don't have to take so much from your time, but because so many asked about 16th October group, I'm just gonna say in brief. It's a group of young journalists and activists who use all the social media platforms to contact the people outside Palestine to report about what is going on here in Palestine, in particular in the Gaza Strip, because we believe that the mainstream media will never report the truth here in Palestine. They only actually adopt the Israeli narrative, and that's it. And the Palestinians are not human beings. They don't, they don't have to live like other people. So only they adopt the Israeli narrative, and that's it. So we established the 16th October group to do this job instead of the mainstream media. So we have WhatsApp news group, the truth here, comment stuff. We held several conferences and everything, to reach the people outside, to convey the message of the oppressed Palestinian people, and to speak for the people here in Palestine. Salah Matar managed actually the social media platforms for 16th October group. Maybe if he has a word or something he wants to deliver in this meeting to tell you about these platforms. But actually, for the last word from me, I want actually to ask all of the organizations here in this webinar and the rest of the pro-Palestinian organizations across the world to exert much effort to shed the lights on what is going on here in Palestine, because actually Israel is taking advantage of the people busy with confronting the COVID-19, and then they violate the international law every single day. They kill Palestinians every single day. They detain the Palestinians. They just storm homes. They just storm towns every single day. So I want to ask you all to keep the voice of Palestine outside, and to help the Palestinian activists and journalists here in Palestine, to help them conveying the message outside, to confront the mainstream media. And really, I would like to thank you so much. And if Salah wants to say something about the platforms. Okay, so thank you so much, Rupert, for this, and I am done with this. Thank you. Thank you.
Right, thanks, everybody, and I hope everybody gains something from this, and let's make sure that there is some sort of follow-up to this, and that everyone properly communicates together for this. Salam to everybody.
Thank you, Wafa.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Robert.
I think Ian is there.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think maybe you want to say something to the people of Gaza, or something you told us, or
Yes.
yeah, okay.
I was not sure when it would happen, but yes, I would like to end this this beautiful gathering with a song to all the people, sisters and brothers of Gaza, of Palestine, and to all the comrades around the world, with hope, love, and solidarity. So this is for you. And everyone has to mute their microphones, because I'm gonna take off my headphones. Okay.
Got the words to change the nation, but you're biding your time. Spent a lifetime stuck in silence, afraid you'll say something wrong. If no one ever hears it out, we gotta learn your song. So come on, come on, come on, come on. You got a heart as loud as light, so I let your voice be changed. Maybe we're a little different, there's no need to be ashamed. You got the light to fight the shadow, so stop hiding it away. Come on, come on. I wanna sing, I wanna shout, I wanna scream to the words, cry out. So put it in all of the papers, I'm not afraid. We can read all about it, read all about it. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. And now we're making up the news while we sing it, making sure that we remember, yeah, 'cause we all matter too. It's the truth that's been written, and we're breaking all the rules. So come on, come on, let's get the TV and the radio to play our tune again. It's about time we got some airplay, our vibrations, some friends. There's no need to be afraid. I will sing with you, my friend. Come on, come on. I wanna sing, I wanna shout, I wanna scream till the words cry out. So put it in all of the papers, I'm not afraid. They can read all about it, read all about it. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Yeah, we're a wonderful, wonderful people. So when did we all get so faithful? And now we're finally finding our voices. So take a chance, come help me sing. Yeah, we're a wonderful, wonderful people. So when did we all get so faithful? And now we're finally finding our voices. So take a chance, come help me sing this. I wanna sing, I wanna shout, I wanna scream till the words cry out. So put it in all of the papers, I'm not afraid. They can read all about it, read all about it. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. I wanna sing, I wanna shout, I wanna scream till the words cry out. So put it in all of the paper, I'm not afraid. They can read all about it, read all about it. Oh.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so thank you so much, Helen and everybody. Okay, goodbye. Salam.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
See you soon.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine. Free Gaza. Free Palestine. Free Gaza.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good to see all of you.